welcome back to Blue City Pickin'. My name is Carrie, and if you are new here, I am a part-time reseller who goes around to yard sales, estate sales, thrift stores, and attempts to buy things to flip for a profit on eBay. We are at Ching number 34. This is what sold the week of April the 20th of 2025. Lots of bread and butter this week, lots of older items moving out of my store. So just a few of the numbers. I sold 35 different things this week. The sum, so my gross sales was $911.06. The sale price, which is the price that I agreed upon with the buyer to pay, excluding taxes and shipping, was $668.59. The purchase price of all of these items was $152.13, and so I made $376.13 this week. Average profit per item was $10.75, so way lower than what I like, but when you hear about the average age of what moved out, you will understand kind of the why there. Max profit on an item was 35. Minimum profit on an item was something that I didn't quite break even on. Average sale price was $19.10. So lots of bread and butter items. I think if you add up everything that sold for less than $15, it was the majority of my things for this week. So I had one or two things that sold pretty quickly within 0 to 5 days. And then the maximum, I had something that had been listed for 493 days. And then I had, the average was 133 days. And so if you've been watching my videos for any length of time, I usually hover right around that 80 to 90 day mark on average, which I consider basically 100% sell through. So at 133 day average, you can tell I had a lot of older inventory that was moving out, which is good. But generally, if it's older, I'm not going to make as much money on it because it's been sitting for a while. So I'm more open to taking offers and just moving it on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. The first thing that sold was a pair of Adidas Adizero Boston 10s. These were actually from a home clean out that my husband did on some of his clothing and shoes. They sold for $23.50. And when I say sold for this time, this is the buyer price, so excluding shipping and taxes. We had $0 into these, so we made $17.67 after 4 days. Next up is a Funko Pop. It's been a really long time since I sold one, but I actually sold two last week. This was a Vulpix Flocked Summer Convention from 2020. This came from a home clean out from a long time ago, so I had nothing into it. It sold for $9.64, and so I made $7.92 after 405 days. Next item is from a Whatnot purchase. This was a TMNT. This was Splinter's Cloak. So this was an action figure accessory from 1988. I bought a huge Whatnot lot back in November for a decent amount of money. I've already made my money back and then some. So I have $1 assigned to this. The buyer paid $9.94, and so I made $6.25 after 152 days. Next item is a lot of 2 Star Trek birthday cards. I bought these at an auction last April, so they took right at a year to sell. I paid $1.25 for them. They sold for $10.13, so I made $6.61 after 335 days listed. Next up is a set of vintage Crayola crayons. This is from 1992. I paid $1 for these at a church rummage sale back at the end of March. They sold for $16, so I made $10.71 after just 17 days. And I bought 3 Crayola 10s that day. All 3 of them have sold. So be on the lookout for older, unopened Crayola. I've had really good luck selling them, especially the ones that have the retired colors in there. Next up was a Wild Republic Fennec Fox stuffed plush. I paid $2.99 for this at Goodwill back in March of 2024. It sold for $7, and so I made a whopping $2.52 after 320 days. Next item is a pair of Lululemon dress pants / slacks. I got these off of ThredUp back in January. They sent me the wrong size. I tried to return it. For some reason, it wouldn't let me. So I had $32 into these. They sold for $35.10, and so I lost 37 cents after 58 days, but I was able to recoup all my money, so that's a win in my book. Next item is a Salt Life dress. This was a size large. It had SPF 50 in it. Paid $7.48 for this at Goodwill back in the middle of March when I picked up a bunch of dresses. It sold for $20, and so I made $7.98 after 32 days. Next item is a Bose remote. Paid $1.13 for this at an estate sale back at the end of March. It sold for $12, and so I made $7.31 after 23 days. Next up is an IKEA plush. This was a really large lion. I paid $3.99 for this at Goodwill back at the beginning of March. It sold for $19.99, and so I made $12.66 after just 29 days. Next item is a Disney Parks Alice in Wonderland hat. This actually came from my closet clean out a long time ago. Nothing into it. It sold for $7.05, and so I made $5.53 after 341 days. Next up is a Philosophy Marzipan Dreams shampoo, gel, and bubble bath. I actually paid $8.80 for this at Marshall's back in January. It was on clearance. It sold for $20, and so I made $7.83 after 97 days. Next item is a pair of 2 pairs of Bermuda shorts from the Children's Place. They were girls size 14. I picked this up in a ThredUp Kids mystery box back in November. Had $1 into each item. These sold for $10, and so I made $5.67 after 164 days. With that mystery box, I ended up taking most of it to Once Upon a Child to recoup my money. There were several items that I sold on my own, whether that was on eBay or at a yard sale. So I did okay with that box, but there's just a lot of work, and that's just not my business model, so I won't ever order one again. Next item that sold was a pair of Noble running shoes. I paid $14.03 for these at Goodwill back in December. They sold for $35, and so I made $16 after 127 days. Next up is a second Funko Pop for this week. This was Harry Potter with the Marauders map. Once again, it came from a home clean out. It sold for $5.97, and so I made $4.01 after 493 days listed. Next item is this Barbie Cool Shopping Checkout Cash Register. I paid $2 for this at an estate sale back in July. I think that was my average cost of goods that day. It sold for $7.71, and so I made $3.36 after 280 days. You're seeing a theme here, long tails, low profits, but it's part of learning. Like 90% of the things that I've talked to you about today, I would not pick up again. But I've learned, and I've gotten my money back, and I made a little bit on the effort that it took me to research it, pick it up, sell it, etc. Next up is a Kipling duffel bag. I thought this was going to do better than it did. I paid $10.48 for this at a local thrift store back in September. It sold for $18, and so I made $3.59 after 223 days. Next item is an Ariat Sport Clog. I paid $6.98 for these at Goodwill back in February. They sold for $20, and so I made $10.81 after 56 days. Next item is a milk glass bowl. This came from a clean out at my parents' house, so $0 into it. It sold for $15, and so I will be giving my parents $8 after just 4 days listed. Next is a vintage raspberry yellow lamb. Its name was Lala. I had 50 cents into this from an estate sale back in August. It sold for $13.85, and so I made $11.22 after 244 days. Next is this really cute set of 4 coffee mugs or tea mugs that I bought at Goodwill. I just thought they were adorable, vintage MCM, like had a lot going for them. They just did not sell. So I paid $7.99 for these at Goodwill last May. I got an offer for $11 and I just let them go. So I made 83 cents after 324 days. Next up is this adorable little white wire sculpture that I picked up at Goodwill back in, let's see, I think February. Yeah, February 22nd is when I bought it for $3.11. It sold for $21.60, and so I made $14.62 after 47 days. Next up is a Disney Wishable. This was the Matterhorn Yeti from the Disneyland 65th. I paid $2.16 for this at Goodwill back at the end of March. It sold for $14, and so I made $7.95 after just 21 days. And because I knew what it was, because I've had one before, I knew roughly what it sold for. I was cool with spending $2 on it and turning it fast, so pretty pleased with a quick $8 profit on that one. Next up is a pair of 2 glass bracelets. And I picked these up off of Whatnot back in December. I paid $2.94 for them. They sold for $9, and so I made $4.75 after 92 days. Next up is, I think, the first bins item from this what sold, which is kind of interesting, but I think I have a few more that I'll cover in just a minute. But this was an Yves Saint Laurent perfume, like weekender duffel bag that I picked up at the bins. I had a $1.48 cost of goods that day. I sold it for $14, and so I made $9.24 after 21 days. Next is a pair of Kizik shoes. This was a pair of blue men's shoes. I think they're actually unisex. I paid, let's see, $7.18 for these at Goodwill back in February. They sold for $34, and so I made $20.07 after 67 days. Next up is another bins find. This was an Alabama Big Owl golf head club cover. My average cost of goods on this particular day was $2.55 from the bin. So he sold for $19, and so I made $12.82, and he sold within a day of listing. Next item is a vintage hand-painted, this was a Williams-Sonoma rooster chicken. I don't know the difference. It was a jug/pitcher. I paid $4 for this at a church rummage sale back in October. It sold for $28.85, and so I made $18.58, but it did take 199 days to sell. Next up is a Skyros hand-painted bowl from Portugal. It was very cute, yellow. I paid $1.99 for this from Goodwill last June. Apparently on my birthday, I went shopping at the Goodwill. It sold for $20, and so I made $12.16, but it did take 304 days to sell. Next item is another bins item. This is a Chico's shirt. I have not had a ton of luck selling Chico's. However, the style on this one was on point. It was very boho. It was like this rusty orange color. It was a nice size, so like a large, extra large size. It was a good fabric at Modal for the summer. Average cost of goods that particular day was $2.55, and it sold for $19. And so I made $12.23, and it sold the same day it was listed. Next item is this Brighton Santa Fe necklace. I picked this up at an estate sale back at the end of March. They had like bags of jewelry. There was a lot of Brighton there, and I went and kind of picked through and picked my favorite 2 bags because I didn't have a ton of cash and that's all they were taking. And so I had $4.17 into this one particular piece. It sold for $33, and so I made $20.95 after 16 days. Next up is one of my better sales for the week. This was a set of 2 Mary Mushroom canisters from Sears and Roebuck from 1982. I found these at Goodwill back at the beginning of April, and I paid $9.38 for them. They sold for $44, and so I made $30.20 after just 15 days. They were in immaculate condition, like amazing for being 42 years old or 43 years old. Next up is another weapon accessory from that same Whatnot lot in November. Once again, I had $1 into this. This was a vintage Bucky O'Hare silver laser pistol gun accessory part. So the key when you're listing these old vintage like weapons is know the character, know the series, and then add in anything that they could be looking for. Like, are they looking for a gun? Are they looking for a pistol? It's an accessory, it's replacement. Like, just know your keywords on this one. It sold for $6.26, so I made $3.34 after 130 days. Next up is a set of Love Every toys. I bought these at the church yard sale at the end of March that I also bought the crayons at. I had $7 into this because it was 2 more substantial pieces, but they sold for $34, and so I made $18.11 after just 16 days. And then last but not least, another item from my parents' clean out. This is a Fenton white milk glass hobnail. I don't even know how to say this. It's like the flowery thing that you can put in the middle. I don't want to embarrass myself. Epergine, I don't know. With one horn. Like, I don't know. That's what it was called. So it sold for $45. It had nothing into it. And so my parents will be making $35 off of this item. And it had been listed for 12 days. So I've sold probably like 4 or 5 of their white milk glass pieces. So they've got some money coming to them. I sold all this stuff, and then I also had my first yard sale. My neighborhood does them twice a year. Did not get a ton of traffic this year. There were so many other neighborhood yard sales on the same weekend that because a lot of other people in the neighborhood did not list their yard sale on like Treasure Map or anything like that, I want to say that folks probably chose to go to other neighborhoods first. But I did have a couple of really good sales. I made like $150, $200, and I cleared out some old inventory. So, I mean, if you added that in, I'm over $500 for the week on the things that I sold. So I'm pretty happy with last week, even though lots of bread and butter and lots of older items moving out. The place where I got most of the things that sold, once again, holding strong with Goodwill at about 45% of my profit coming from that, about 16% from other, and that's mostly my parents' things that they sold. Yard sales at about 13%, estate sales at 11%, and then everything else. Clothing came in at about 34% of my profits for this week. Household type items at 40%, toys at 15%, and collectibles at 11%. And once again, those household items being the Mary Mushroom canisters, the hobnail pieces, that definitely amped that up for this week compared to a normal week where I'm more like 50% clothing and then the rest is split. So all in all, I'm okay with the week's results, pleased with where we landed. If you like this kind of content, I would genuinely appreciate a like and a subscribe. And if you could comment down below what's your sourcing looking like now that yard sale season is picking back up? Are you still hitting the thrift stores because you can get more in one thing? Or are you heading to yard sales and driving around treasure hunting? Let me know down in the comments, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.